Salute, Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen, and as always, we have a lot to talk about. The Knicks are 2-1 over the past week with a win against Sacramento Kings, an overtime win against the Portland Trailblazer, and a close, winnable, in my opinion, loss to the Golden State Warriors. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about Brunson's, the injury news, and just what the Knicks need to do to continue their winning ways. We'll talk about the game tonight versus the Miami Heat as well, and a few other topics in between if we have time. We only have an hour, so it might be pretty rapid fire tonight. Tony from Knicks and Bruises, Lady and the Chef from Two Knicks Chicks, and Jeff, who will pop back in at some point from the Happily Ever Clafter Daily Sports Blog. How you guys doing?
Oh, I'm glad to be back. That's for sure, Queen. I had to take some time off, but I'm here.
Yeah. Glad to see you, Lady in the Chef.
Always happy to be here on a Monday. It's a great way to kick off my. I don't like Mondays during the day, but I look forward to this. So when we get to talk about this, I'm excited. I'm happy. So I'm always happy to be here and chop it up with you all.
Yeah, for sure. 2-1 this past week. Could have been 3-0, but things happen. Um, what stood out for you offensively, defensively, coaching wise, rotation wise? You could go wherever you want to go with it over this past week, the first full week without Brunson. Lady, we'll start with you, Jeff, then Tony.
What stood out for me was when Brunson went down, the ball movement was a lot more effective. Guys were cut into the basket. The floor looked a lot more spacious. And there was no one-on-one in the games that we did win against both Cleveland and Sacramento. There was actual extra passes and unselfish basketball. And I thought that was pivotal for the Knicks. If they can get back on that train, the Knicks are going to be really in a good spot without Brunson.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we talked about this last last week. Does this look similar to what it was like early in the season, or does this look different?
I feel like early in the season, no, it doesn't. I feel like it looks a little different just because there's less one-on-one holding the ball, wasting time, whereas now guys have to react. They don't have time to stand around and wait for the ball. So it makes guys, it's putting them on their toes. You know, I was mentioning this on Tony Crow, Nix and Bruce's show, and I like the way the flow of the offense looks. It's more fluid, you know what I mean? And I think that guys before were kind of waiting around for like Brunson to make his move and then they would chime in and help out, whereas now everybody's involved and it's more team basketball.
Okay, all right. Jeff, what stood out for you this week?
Well, I think a couple things. First of all, the defense is outstanding. I think it makes a huge difference. We've been kind of saying on the show all year long, when you have to cover for two people, it's a lot harder than when you're having to cover for one. And when you replace an average, let's say, defender in JB, and you plug in a dynamo defensively like Deuce in that starting lineup, the defense has been really elite and fun to watch. And the other thing that I noticed from the Golden State game is in those last 6 minutes, we didn't know where to go with the ball, and it was really difficult for us to create advantages and draw two to the ball. And I think I don't know this for sure. I'd like to hear your guys' take on it, but I kind of think that part of it is that when your main scorer is Karl Anthony Towns in that lineup, that you have to find ways to get him the ball. And we're not always good at that. And that's not something he's naturally just throwing the ball and let him make plays. That's not his game. And so you're really dependent upon your guards, whether it be McCall or Deuce or Josh, whoever the case may be, to set him up to get him the ball. And that's not something that's particularly in their skill set. And then the other thing is I've never really seen a game before where it felt like it was 4-on-8. The Knicks got nothing from Josh Hart and their bench. They were playing against the Warriors and the officials, and they lost by 3 points when the other team hit a 38-footer banked in at the end of the first quarter. So all of that combined really shows me that this is a really good basketball team. And I think over the next, from now to the end of the season with the West Coast trip behind us, I think we have the 17th rated schedule the rest of the way. So hopefully it's a time that even without Brunson, we can start to stack some wins again and build confidence and kind of see things that different combinations that work.
Yeah, to your point, the Knicks are number 11 in defensive rating since the All-Star break, number 7 since Mitch returned, and number 3 since Brunson's injury. Now, the offense has taken a dip as well, but still plus 1.5 in terms of net rating. So some tight games, but we'll talk about whether that's sustainable when Brunson returns. Tony, what stood out for you this week? Shout out to the chat, by the way, and those watching.
Well, I definitely was gonna say defense. I
Mhm.
definitely was gonna point out that top three in his absence. That's the biggest thing. You know what I mean? And honestly, to your point, I'm glad you had the 11th since the All-Star break and 7th um in whatever span that was, because I wanted to preference by saying the defense was getting better with Brunson. It just so
Of course.
happens that obviously it gets even better when you add
Mhm.
Deuce in his place. One of the things I forgot to mention on my show, so I'm gonna plug it now because it kind of fits right in,
Mhm.
particularly in the Golden State game that we should have won, could have won. Karl Anthony Towns, and I said this early in the year, I don't care about his defense per se, whether bad defense, average, whatever you want to rate it or label it as. I'm more concerned with his fouling. Like if you can play whatever defense you're playing without fouling, this way you're available on the floor because you're so vital to us offensively. I think we can still live with, the mishaps defensively. We would have won that game had he been able to play some more minutes, but he was in foul trouble. And we've seen that a lot throughout the season where he's unavailable because he's on the bench because of foul trouble. And obviously, without Brunson, we need him on the floor as often and as much as possible. But that stood out to me, even though I referenced it earlier in the year, because we lost that game. He was cooking in that third quarter when he was able to play some minutes. But that first half, he was on the bench too long because of foul trouble. So that's one area that I'm hoping he could work on, with or without Brunson's return. Just stop the fouls. We can live with the defense. We have enough capable defenders around you in the minutes that you do play with Mitch. Now we got a defender behind you. So I think we can get by if he just cuts down on the fouls.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what you're saying, I agree with you in terms of cutting down on the fouls. I still think he can be a better defensive player than he has been. I've seen it. And so I'm just not going to buy into the physical limitations, and there are some. And this is the best you're going to get from Karl Anthony Towns. And I'm talking particularly about his team defense. I think he can be better. And hopefully he's waiting for the playoffs to be better and be more consistent. But, to your other point about if he was available in the first half, I do think the fact that he wasn't available in the first half, Draymond Green calling him soft, um, that ticky tack foul that basically he was baited into. I think that's why he played as well as he played, you know, in the second half. He was super focused. And what stood out for me was how he accepted the challenge. You know, in that second half, he went right at Draymond to the point that Coach Kerr had to switch the matchups. And I'm like,
Hmm.
this is what I'm talking about. Like the game within the game. This is what I like to see from players. You know, you ain't ducking no smoke. You know, and I love that about him. He was super sharp in that second half. So that's good to see. I never thought he was soft, never. But it's just good to see that when he's challenged,
Hmm.
that he'll answer the bell. So, that stood out for me. Deuce McBride being on a point of attack at the point of attack, which allows Bridges now to showcase more of what he can do offensively. I mean, he still has to defend, but it's different than defending opposing point guard. So I think that does help him offensively. And in the Golden State game, particularly, I thought the Knicks did a better job assessing what the teams was giving them. Like they went to Cat against smaller players. They went to Bridges against Curry, not as much as they
Not
could
as much
have, but
exactly.
as they should have, right? But they did it. They did it a few times. Um, they had Josh Hart in the pick and roll early when he had a big on him. I thought they could have did that more as well. But I see them getting better at trying to take advantage of the mismatches, and I think they have to continue to do that because they're going to need that in the playoffs. They're going to need that. But those are the things that stood out for me, in addition to what you all talked about. Anything else? Any particular game you want to um, dive into?
We lost. What was it? LA, the two LA games, and then
Yes, we beat.
I
Then
mean
we beat Sacramento,
Sacramento. Yeah.
Portland, and then lost to Golden State.
I mean, I think the Portland game was probably a little closer than we it should have
Would have
been,
liked.
but even in that, that's lessons learned, right? Because one, we close out a game without Brunson, so that's a achievement check. You know what I mean? Now, granted,
Mhm,
it was against Portland, but it's still, you gotta take the positive out of it. So that's experience of closing out a game, without
mhm,
the guy who's Mr. Clutch, Captain Clutch, pardon me, and so that was great to see. And
mhm.
like Dolan was saying, you got to pull from that experience. You got that experience. Now you can pull from it the next time.
Right.
We weren't able to do it against the Warriors, but they're a much better team with much more experience that they can pull from. So to me, it's really about getting these guys going, that and finding different matchups and rhythm, but without Brunson. But yeah, we closed out a game. That was another standout within these, the stretch.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anything else?
And that was the Macau game, which we need more
Right.
from him.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we could talk about Josh Hart in the next segment. Um, I just I wanted to get into whether or not you thought Thibodeau was losing the locker room, right? Rarely does someone speak out in public about Thibodeau, and I'm going back to Bridges speaking out about the minutes. And it's not whether it's true or not, it's just about him speaking out. And he was asked a question, to be clear. But we've seen players be politically correct and answer the question and not really answer the question. He answered the question honestly. And then we have Josh Hart and Tom Thibodeau going at each other in the Golden State game, which I loved, by the way. People may not agree with me um, 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 on that, but what's your take on it? Do you think um, there's a crack in the armor, so to speak, or crack in the solidarity between coach and players that can get worse over time depending on what happens, or do you think it's really a non-issue? Jeff, we'll start with you, then Tony, then Lady in the Chef.
I don't think it's an issue right now. It's probably something to keep an eye on moving forward. Like, if, in other words, if it happens once, isolated incident, if it starts happening frequently, then maybe you can say, yeah, maybe there's, some termites in the wood. But I'm kind of with you. I don't mind that Josh Hart and Tom Thibodeau got into it a little bit when they're heated, and I really didn't have much of a problem with what Bridges said either. I thought it got blown up into this huge thing, and
Mhm.
Landry Shamet and Cam Payne are his buddies from Phoenix. Like, I'm sure he does want to see them get more playing time, and I think he was just saying, yeah, and if it means I have to play a few less minutes, okay. But I also think that he feels like he has a bigger role that he can play, and I think he showed it that night. I think he came in the Portland game, and he was aggressive, and he attacked, and he was able to go shot for shot with them and make the most important shot of the game on what I thought was a really good inbounds play by Thibodeau. I mean, I like the design, pass it, get the screen, and then you're going with motion toward the bucket, so he doesn't have to. He's much better, I think, as a motion shooter than he is just a catch and shoot shooter. I don't know if the stats back that up or not, but that's just the way that it feels like to me. But I think he and OG are like 1 and 2 as far as shooting from their prescribed corners in the NBA. I saw a stat like that on X, but I think McCall could do so much more than that. And now that we don't have Jalen, he's going to get an opportunity to showcase more of what he can do, and I'm kind of excited about that possibility. I mean, and we talked about on Tony's show how he dribbles a lot. Shuttle was making the point, he dribbles a lot, but with his size and his skill set, that's how he gets free to create his shots. He's got to use his full footwork and his shiftiness and his creativity with the ball, and so it's kind of a catch-22. Like, yeah, you don't want him to dribble so much, but at the same time, if you're going to get the most fully realized version of him, you kind of have to let some of that stuff go, because that's how he cooks, that's how he operates. You can't just say, no, you're going to have to do it a different way, you're not going to be as successful. I would love to see him get more catch and shoot wide open threes, because I think he's probably the best 3-point shooter on the team. So if we could find a way to, but he draws so much attention that's really difficult. And so, but I just going forward with what we have while he's out, I think I want to see us rely on Bridges a lot more as option 1B with Cat being 1A.
Yeah, and to your point, most players who create a shot, by definition, you create off the dribble, right? I mean, catch and shoot, that's fine. But if you look at any player who you want to create a shot, they create a shot off the dribble. That's just how it is. Durant, LeBron, like whoever it is, they create off the dribble. Can they also catch and shoot? A lot of them can, or some of them can. But if you're going to have a player who, creates for you, creates for others, it's happening off the dribble. Now, do they have to dribble 18 times before they get into their shot? That's something different, but they're going to have to dribble. Yeah. Um, I forgot who was next. Was it Tony or Lady and the Chef, in terms of if you thought Thibodeau was losing the locker room, or if there was some crack in the armor, so to speak, with these two incidents over the past week?
No, I don't think he's losing the locker room at all. I think the McCall situation is one, he's new to the team. He don't know the you gotta be politically correct when you answering these questions. Granted, he's been in Brooklyn, but he hasn't dealt with New York media, New York Knicks media. He's dealt with Brooklyn media with different expectations. They're looked upon different over there. Over here, number one, they want to find a crack in the armor. They want to find something that they could talk about it and make headlines on. And then of all the issues, of all the things that he could have possibly said, he says the thing that, well, he's asked about it obviously, but this is the thing that has followed Thibodeau around. I wish, and my only concern, I honestly was, we don't need the outside noise. We don't need the distraction. And my only concern was, how does, I knew we were going to pick up on it, the Knicks fan base.
Right.
I knew we was going to talk about it. I didn't want the whole basketball world to start talking about it, and they have, and it hasn't been that big of a deal like I thought it might be, to be honest. But the Josh Hart thing, I'm with you on that. I love it. I think it's actually good for the team. I think I don't remember exactly what it was last year, but there was something that seemed like it sparked the team, some type of internal. Actually, it might not have been last year. It might have been the year before. It seemed like Tibbs was on a hot seat at one particular moment, and from that moment to the into the playoffs, we you know what I mean. It felt like we needed that. It kind of sparked us. So yeah, I think nothing of it. I think Josh was really in his own feelings because he wasn't having a good game. To be honest, I don't
Right.
think it had
He
anything
was
to do.
scoreless.
I think
He
that's what it
scored
was.
5 points. Maybe we win the game.
He was mad at himself. He was, what I mean, more than Tibbs or whatever it was that Tibbs said, and I'm sure the next roommate podcast they're gonna talk about it.
They go to- But you know what? Josh Hart said it afterwards. Basically, there's nothing going on between me and Tibbs. I love the guy. I'm just competitive, the flow of the game, and I wasn't playing well. I was frustrated. And it was good to see Tibbs go at it, though. It was that to me, I like to see it. I know there may be some fans who's like, "What the hell is going on?" That's not something you do with your coach, but I think it happens more than we realize and more than we see. Lady in the
And
chat. Go ahead, Tone.
real quick, vice. I was just gonna say vice versa, because some players can't take that. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Some coaches don't know how to respond to that, and some players don't. So the fact
right.
that it could get brushed over, brushed off and
Mhm,
move on like a bad play, you know what I mean? That just goes to the, where, how close they actually are, as opposed to it being turmoil.
mhm.
Yeah, to
All right.
me, there that wasn't anything that was a major cause for concern. Or did I look at it like there's locker room issues? I think Josh is that player that if you've coached any sport, you're like, I love this player. I like them individually. I like them as an athlete, but sometimes they get on my damn nerves. And I think Tibbs sometimes just looks at Josh like, yo, he could be a handful at times. And Josh is a jokester. He goes out there and performs, but sometimes I'm sure Tibbs is probably like, yo, I wish he would sit down. This guy is like, sometimes it's too much.
Mhm.
But I think I agree. I think that was needed also because I haven't seen Tibbs get like that with guys. I think the last time I saw a coach go at it like that was when we had Woodson. And Woodson would be cursing out players and tell them, get your ass and get out there. And, you used to see Woody going at players. But I was like, yeah. And then I'm not going to lie, I was a little messy because I was annoyed that Shamit stood up. When I watched the clip, I'm like this while I'm watching. I said, yo, why did Shamit get up? Sit your ass down. I'm trying to read Tibbs' lips and see what he's saying. I wanted to get the whole conversation because I watched it a few
Thanks.
times and Tibbs is telling him to run the play. But I agree with you all. That was just the frustration from Josh just being off. He was thinking up the joint, as Ajay likes to say, and he just wasn't playing good. So I'm sure Tibbs probably was telling him run whatever play, and Josh was doing his version and not really fully running the plays. And that probably Tibbs was like, enough, like close your mouth, enough, you're off, zip it.
Right.
If you're not gonna run the plays, chill. I don't want to hear it right now. I'm trying to draw up a play right now, and you disrupting a timeout out of you with the mouth. You know what I mean? And that's realistically what it was. So I don't think that there's Tibbs is losing the locker room, I don't think that there's underlining drama. And I think that Mikel speaking up, I think that that was needed as well. And I think some people may look at it like, oh, but how is it that when Toppin and Fournier spoke up, it was shunned upon. But I think that also when you look at those two players, they were in a different caliber than when you look at Mikel and when you look at Josh Hart and their roles for this team versus Fournier and Toppin. It's a huge difference of the players and who they are for this team and where they are for this team. But I think that Mikel speaking up was a good thing. I think that he needed to address. And honestly, I feel like if we calling ourselves a team and we calling ourselves a family and we gonna be together for a couple of years, I'm gonna speak up and I'm gonna say something to you. It's respectfully I'm speaking up to you. It's also, to me, I took that like Mikel, I watch him when he's on the bench. He sits there and he's analyzing the game. He's looking at it in the long run. And I think he's not, some people took it as like, oh, well, why is he advocating for the bench guys? It's not so much that he was advocating. He's saying, hey, some nights I don't gotta play 45 minutes or 46. Some nights OG, whoever, but Cat, Brunson, some nights you could dwindle it down and give a guy like Deuce, give a guy like Shamit some more burn because we're going to need them. And they have that. I'm seeing the potential of what they can give us, but we're never going to know if you don't give them the burn. And this has been an issue with Tibbs where he doesn't give guys the playing time. We have talented guys on this team, but how are we going to know if they're not getting in real game situations? So kudos to Mikel for speaking up. And I thought that was needed.
Can I just add?
Yeah, sure.
If I think just one big difference, and a coach is probably going to look at this with more respect and take more heed, is the fact that Mikel is speaking up for his teammates. And he's advocating for them to get minutes as opposed to Fournier and Toppin asking for themselves. So Tibbs preaches it's about the team, and sacrifice. So this is him actually asking for telling Tibbs to take heed to your own philosophy, as opposed to those other two guys asking for selfish reasons in a sense for more time. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I agree with David G. I think that's David G. I'm on my phone, so the comments, I only get like one or two comments at a time. Keep it in house. I don't think the media needs to know what you and Tibbs talked about. And me and Tony talked about this. I'm not sure it was a full-fledged conversation. Like I don't know if he went into the office and was like, listen, I want to talk to you about the minutes. Like he said, he was on the sideline, Tibbs was putting him back in, and he was like, yo, Shamit's cooking. Why are you like that's the conversation, not like he knocked on the door and was like, look, we're gonna have to discuss this. And I was talking to Ernie Johnson. Those who've been watching basketball for a while may know him. He used to play for the Phoenix Suns, a really great shooter. And he has a show on Sirius XM NBA radio. And someone called in about Bridges going at the coach. And he said, I know this kid, because he played in Phoenix. He said, I don't think that was it at all. That's just not how he operates. He has friends on that team and Campaign and Shamit. And trust me, he was just advocating for them to get more minutes. He said, it's not even about him. He's played, I don't know how many minutes a game. He's an Iron Man. It was more about him, wanting to get more minutes for his friends. So yeah, I don't think there's anything there. And I think teams, once you get to this level and you're trying to win a championship, you're going to go through some things. And even if you listen to the Roommates podcast with James Dolan, Brunson said, sometimes you got to go through failure. Sometimes you got to go through things. That's what forges the team. It's not just about putting players together on paper. It's not just about putting the team together. It's about forging, going through the wars together. So even if this is a little controversy and a little distraction. Good. Good. How are you guys going to deal with it? How are you going to come
Mm-hmm.
through? How are you going to come through on the other side? But I agree. I don't think there's any friction between the two. And I think Josh and him going at it is probably because of the relationship they have that they can do that. I mean, coaches kind of know who they can go at like that and who they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about favoritism. It's just about knowing each player. And it was good for me to see the fire in Thibodeau. Like, listen, I ain't ducking no smoke, from nobody. I don't care who you are. And anything else on that?
Families fight, right? We all are. We're all part of families, and you're gonna have. There's no such thing as the sitcom family where everything is always roses all the time. If you have a real relationship with somebody, you're gonna fight with them sometimes. That's just the way that it is. And it's not the fact that you fight, it's what comes after. Are you able to bury the hatchet and forgive and truly forgive? Or are you gonna hold on to that moment and bury it in deep in your soul and hold it against that person for the rest of eternity?
Right.
And everybody handles those sorts of things differently, but the fight itself isn't a problem. It's how you react to the fight going forward. Do you bury the hatchet and it's just next day, next thing, let's go, we're still on the same page? Or does it turn into a rift where you can't let go of that, and then then you have bigger problems?
Yeah. And if you've been on a team, any sports team, this happens. In the heat of a game, you going at it with a teammate. You in the locker room, you might be, or halftime, you might be going at it with a coach. The coach is getting on you getting on the coach, you're going back and forth. Like, if you've played sports, any type of organized sports, if it hasn't happened to you, you've seen it. So like Keith Turner said, I haven't given that confrontation the time of day. He's got it. He got heated with his coaches a couple of times. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else on that? All right. So Brunson may be out. Shams report, and listen, nobody knows. Brunson might come back next week, right? But it looks like he's going to be out through March, early April. The Knicks still hold the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Still at least 4 games. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. If not 4.5, because I think they lost last night. Might be 4 because the Knicks lost 2, but somebody check that. Ahead of the Bucks, the Knicks are in position to hold on to that spot even without Brunson, right? The next 5 games are against teams that are under 500: Miami, San Antonio, Charlotte, Washington Wizards, and the Dallas Mavericks. Is it a fair expectation for the Knicks to go 5-0, even though the competition is under 500, being that they will be playing without Jalen Brunson? Who's a closer? We're missing that. That's something we're missing as well. Lady and the Chef, no, Tony, go first. I think Lady and the Chef went first already.
Was it specifically who's a closer? I was looking up the records.
No. I'm saying, is it fair to expect them to go 5-0 without Jalen Brunson with these teams that's coming up?
Oh, you got the teams. You got the.
Yeah, I said the teams. Let me say it again. They're all under 500. Miami, San Antonio, Charlotte, Washington, and Dallas.
I mean, let's keep it 100. You can't take any team lightly, right? The Knicks don't have the luxury of taking teams lightly.
Right.
So it's possible we could take a loss in a game, but and we're still finding our footing in general, and we're still finding our footing without Jalen Brunson. So our margin for error is small as well. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say we can beat all 5. You know what I mean? We should. Yes, we should. We should.
Yeah. Would you be upset if they didn't?
They better be. You know what I mean. I'll get
Four and
my
one,
level.
right?
Yeah, exactly. 4-1. My level of
And a
anger
close one in the loss.
my level of anger gets more and more. Like so 3-2. 3-2. I'm not. You know what I mean. I'm a little bit more upset. You can't go under 500 though. I'll tell you that. So
Right.
there's only two acceptable ones if they lose.
Yeah, AJ expect the Knicks to go 82-0. Yeah, we get it.
And then 16-0 in the playoffs. Don't forget that's 98.
But it is 4.5 back. Or above.
It's 4.5. Okay,
Above the Bucks. Yeah.
appreciate it. Lady and the Chef.
Yeah, I'm with Ajay. I've been a big advocate this season of having higher expectations for the Knicks, like raising the bar a little bit more, not over exceeding, but
Mm-hmm.
not just being complacent with, okay, yeah, let's get another 50-win season. Like, no, let's try to get more than 50 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what I said earlier was in the 2 wins that the Knicks did win without Brunson, the floor spacing was really nice to see. I mean, even times where I saw both Cat and Mitch get the ball in the down in the paint, and then they were kicking it out, and then there was another pass. Just the unselfish ball movement. If the Knicks can do that, they can be successful against these teams. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout. The Knicks are known to have close games.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think the Knicks have to like really tighten up at this last leg of the season. And again, I think Brunson being out is a good thing. So this is exposes other guys to step up and step to the plate. Now, as far as closer, I personally think that, it can go either way. I think some nights, because I think the key for the Knicks to do well during this next 5-game stretch and the rest of this leg until you get Brunson back, and I don't want to rush Brunson back. I want him to take his time and come back. They have to play team basketball. So they have to play together. It can't be individual. That's what hurt them against the Warriors. It was too much one-on-one. And they went away from what worked, the 2 wins that they did win. And then against the Warriors, you saw a Cat sometimes at the top of the key putting the ball between his legs. Then OG had it. OG was kicking up. Then Mikal. It was too much one-on-one and not enough guys moving without the ball, making the pass, making the right reads. And if they can get back to doing that and the ball movement and cutting and moving without the ball. And again, I even said this on Tony's show, just because Brunson's not there, if you're Deuce, if you're Mikal, if you're Cam, you try to utilize the pick and roll as well. Like use it, try it. You have 2 tall guys there who you can trust more so with Cat giving him the ball, but I really haven't even seen Mitch getting the touches when he is getting the minutes to give him an alley-oop, give him the. So I just want to see them and be a lot more neater with making that entry pass in the paint if you're going to give Cat the ball. But I think as far as closers, it can go any way. It can be OG, who's more than capable of hitting that shot for us or giving us the points we need. And I think Mikal is way more than capable of doing that as well. So and Deuce, if he wants to get fired up and heat up, he can also heat check some guys as well. So I think it could be any guy's night who not even just the last second shot, but who can, get us back in that game as Brunson is. That's his role, and he's known to be Mr. Clutch and do that. I think you just need to see guys step up and do that, mainly Mikal. I need him to step up and improve. Okay, if I need to get us 6 points, we saw Cat do it the last game and, go off for the Knicks in the fourth quarter, score 11 points. So I want to see Mikal get more involved and do that. And I'm loving what I'm seeing from OG. But I think I'm for sure they need to win these next 5 games because a 4-game lead is not really a comfortable enough lead moving forward with Milwaukee and Indiana right on the Knicks' backs.
Yeah. How many we have? 16 to go, 15 to go?
16 left.
16 left. Yeah. Jeff, what's your thoughts?
Lady and the Chef had a lot of great insights there. I really appreciate that. One of the things that I notice is every time we play the Miami Heat, regardless of who's on what roster, it's coming down to the final possession. Like I want it to be a blowout. I hate Pat Riley. I hate that team. I want to destroy them, but you just know somehow, like Duncan Robinson and Tyler Harrow will both go off for 30, and then here we are down the stretch, in a nip and tuck game, and that's concerning just because the Knicks don't really have. They're not in a comfort zone with who to go to. Like with Brunson on the floor, even if he doesn't take the shot, he's going to be the guy, draw 2 to the ball, and he's going to get it to Josh Hart or to somebody else. And then you have 4-on-3 and you have advantages. When the game slows down for this group, how do they create those advantages? That's what I want to see. And I'm not sure that's exactly evident because there's not really a true point guard on the floor. And so, I'm curious to see how that works. I love the idea of Cat getting the ball up at the top, and maybe playing a little bit of a joker role, where he gets to play make a little bit more because I think he's a good passer. But it's about getting him to those spots and being able to utilize him in that way. And Josh Hart's got to play better. Like his lack of aggression and lack of willingness to shoot is actively hurting the Knicks offense. And when you have a lineup, which we've seen of Precious, and Mitch on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, how do you ever expect to get a bucket? I mean, you have 3 non-shooters on the floor, and that combination should never happen. And I don't mean
that's what I said too. I'm like, yo, Tibby, what are you doing with this Bam Bam unit out here, the Flintstones,
But I this is going to come across as mean maybe, and I appreciate what Achua has done for us in his time in a Knick uniform, but I think with this current roster as it is right now, I don't think he fits very well. And so because he's not a shooter, he's not a rim protector, and he's an okay rebounder, but he's not a great rebounder. And so I don't think that he's really providing what we need in a backup 4 or 5 role. Mitch has a lot of similar issues, but Mitch is the rim protector. Mitch does defend the paint in a way that Precious can't. So I kind of feel like with Achua, it's not really happening. And I would prefer to see us go small. I like what Landry Shamet gives us. And sometimes that's not an option, but I think in the modern NBA, like, I think you can do that. I think we didn't do it properly against Golden State. I think there were some opportunities. Like I said, when we went small, we had too many non-shooters out there. Get the shooters on the floor, make that offense dynamic, because almost everybody you're plugging into the equation outside of Towns is a plus defender right now. Because Brunson's the only other guy. I mean, I think Precious is a good defender. I mean, I think he's good. He's very switchable. He does some nice things, but his skill set just isn't in tune with what this team needs. It's like he's the wrong type of oil for the engine. You know what I mean? You can't just put any old engine in oil. You have to, if it takes 5W30, you got to do that. If it takes 10W30, you do that. And he just seems like he's the wrong oil, and that chokes off the engine and makes it quit, and it ruins it instead of, making it smooth and where it drives the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. I think theoretically I can get with you on that, but then he goes out and he has some good, good showings for us, good games for us. He's not playing that much, I think he's super situational at this point. There's games in which, he doesn't play. I kind of like sprinkling him in, so just from a mental perspective, so he doesn't feel like he's just out of the rotation totally. But I get your point. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But I think that's what's hurting him, though. Like, you just hit the nail on the head. I think you want to keep him in a rotation so it doesn't affect him mentally, because this is a game of mental status as well, right? But I think that he's in his own head, and I think that he's feeling some type of way because Tibbs has lowered his minutes, and now he's probably like, damn, yo, like, he playing me 5 minutes here. Some games I'm not playing if I get 10 minutes, but make the most out of those minutes when you get in, and the effort is not there. I said on Tony's show, he looked like he had a gummy before the Warriors game. I said, did he take a gummy? And he was. I thought of you, Queen. He was right near the basket, couldn't even catch the basketball. I said, what's going on? Pressure, is he okay? I was genuinely concerned. I said, is he just looks so out of it. He looks like he's walking on space. He's trying to, there's no, I don't know, the gravity, something's not there. I'm like, someone shake him and wake him up. He just seems like just lackadaisical. He needs some jolt of energy. I don't know if the medical staff have a shot they could give him at halftime. He needs something, but it's not working out with the energy levels is just so low. It's like how you always say how me and my mom is smooth and coastal. He needs to just join us on the show because the energy level is just it's too low for me. Everyone else out there is hustling. I'm like, I don't know. Shamit needs to tap him and give him the energy he has. It's just it's I don't know.
Shamit is actually a good example. He come out on fire. I don't care how many minutes he get, and he coming out on fire in terms of you could just feel the energy coming off of him, even when his shot is not falling. And as of late, I don't know what the stats are, but it looks like his shot is falling a bit more. But yeah, that's what I would like to see from Precious when he comes out, where you could just feel the energy coming off of him, just in terms of hustle in the minutes that that he's out here, that he's
It's
out there.
it's
Um,
almost
hmm,
it's almost like he sees the writing on the wall because he's been here before and he
hmm.
knows how Tibbs is when your minutes are like that, 5 minutes, you know what I mean, did not play this game without he knows what that means. But on the flip side, because you've been here before, you also know to stay ready. You know what the philosophy that will get you, that will maximize you. So you gotta live through that, play through that, and be ready because your next opportunity is around the corner. Like you know that.
And not only, yeah, around the corner. Listen, Mitch is playing. I don't know how many minutes he's playing a game, but if Towns get into foul trouble, you can't really play Mitch more minutes. You can't really extend Mitch's minutes. I don't think his stamina is there, right? And so that there's an opportunity. And Cat's always getting into foul trouble, So, that's your opportunity right there, right? You're just foul trouble or any injury, God forbid, away from getting more minutes. So, hopefully, mentally he stays in it. He's a hit and miss guy. He'll come in and he'll have a phenomenal performance and be like, wow, you just, his push shot is going, he's rebounding. And then there's other games when I'm like, look, I'm just rolling my eyes all through the game, rolling my eyes because he's missing chippies, shooting air balls, like you know, but to me, that's mental. That inconsistency at this point in his career, to me, that's just mental. Um, all right, let's move on to tonight's game against Miami. They're 29-38, ninth in the Eastern Conference, 2-8 over their last 10, and they've lost 7 in a row, which means tonight is going to be a dogfight. Right? That's what that means. That
And
they're
we beat them last game, so Spo has some type of adjustment plan.
correct. They're hankering for a win, and when teams are like lose 7, at some point the tide is going to turn. Right? Hopefully, it's not tonight against the Knicks. The last game they started at point guard Tyler Hero, shooting guard Duncan Robinson, small forward Andrew Wiggins, power forward Bam Adebayo, and center the rookie Khalil Ware. Bam had 18 points. Khalil Ware, the rookie, had 19 points, 11 rebounds, and a block. And then off the bench, they had Kay Anderson. What do they call him? Slow mo, who had 13 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Jaime Jaime Jaquez or Jack. How do you pronounce his
Hawkins.
last name? What is it?
Hawkins.
Jaquez, 27 minutes, and Rozier, who had 27 minutes, but statistically just wasn't great. So they got blown out in their last game against Memphis. They only scored 91 points and gave up 125. But I will say, over the last 12 games, even over the last 5 games, the their offensive rating and the Knicks' offensive rating is not that far behind. So both teams, neither team has been a juggernaut over the past 12 games, even over the last 5 games, but it's been the Knicks defense over the past 12 and 5 games that's kind of set them apart. And hopefully that's true tonight as well. Anything particular you're looking for tonight in this game other than the win, Jeff?
Energy. That's the first game back after a long road trip. You slept in your own beds, and sometimes when you do that, there's a lethargy that sets in, and you just kind of sleepwalk through the first half. And we've seen that, and that I want. So I want to see the opposite of that. I want to see this team come out focused and ready to go, because I feel like if they punch these guys in the mouth and get them down by a big deficit early, when you're in a bad way like this, sometimes you get hit with that uppercut to the face and you just stay down on the mat and just call it a day. And that's what I'm hoping for, but I know better. This is going to be a nip and tuck game. Bam's going to play well. Harrow's going to go off for a bunch of points and make a bunch of threes. And I just do wonder, though, is Spoelstra on the hot seat?
With Pat Riley? No.
Like, we're complaining that the Knicks are like 42 and 26 or whatever we are. They've lost 7 in a row and are 9 games under 500, and he's like, top 5 coach in the league is all I'm saying. So
he has that perpetual get out of jail card for free.
I guess, well, he does have a championship, so I guess he's earned that. But I just find it interesting. But yeah, tonight's game scares me. But if we play our best, there's no way we lose. Like, I don't see a scenario where we go out there, we are serious, we take care of business, we share the ball, we defend. Like, if we do all those things, then I think I would be shocked if it would just have to be like some crazy 3-point shooting barrage, which can always happen. But I mean, the Washington Wizards beat Denver the other night, so you can't ever, these things happen in an 82 game season. And
correct.
So you just hope that we can survive and keep winning some games, because I'm with Lady and the Chef. I want to get above 50 wins. I'd love to see this team get 52, 53 wins, and that means that they have to finish strong, 11-5 in their last 16. But I think that's doable. And I think it depends on focus and being ready to play and being prepared and taking care of business. And so that's what I'm hoping to see.
Yeah. Lady in the Chef?
Yeah, I'm looking to see energy, a lot more concerted energy and effort. The Knicks being aggressive, Miami can be an aggressive team. And, Tony spoke on Cat with the fouls. I think some of them you have to live with them, but not even just Cat. I've noticed it with a few guys. I've noticed it with Josh Hart at times. Sometimes it's like a silly, stupid foul. Sometimes with Deuce, like if you have a guy even campaigning there, right, just let him just take it. You're giving him an opportunity to get to the free throw line and now add another point to the scoreboard. So just let him take it. But I want to see the Knicks put a better effort. You don't have Andrew Wiggins in, yet you have Jaime Jaquez in. And they got to figure out a way to stop Bam and limit his touches, because it seems like he's one of those players. Whenever we play Miami, he's able to do whatever he wants to do. And I'm like, who's checking him? On the Knicks, who's checking this guy? So I just want to see the Knicks crash the boards, guard the perimeter. I don't want to see Hero shooting lights out like, this is a Globetrotter game. And I want to see team basketball tonight. So the extra passes are going to be needed. I don't care if it's a bounce pass, a chest pass, make it a crisp pass. And the timing of the passes. And I just want to see guys go out there and running, and then also come out starting off the game strong, but a strong start to the third quarter as well. And then closing off the game strong.
Yeah, for sure. Deuce will be on Hero, and I'm not saying that Hero won't still score, but, Deuce will make it hard for him. And shout out to Deuce, in his defensive Curry. You're not going to stop a guy like Curry, right? Your job is to make it harder for him, and Deuce did that, and to limit his touches. How many shots didn't he get because Deuce denied the entry pass to to Curry. So shout out to Deuce for the job he did both offensively and defensively. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Tony,
Um, what was the question? I'm sorry.
just what would you like to see tonight against other than a win?
Uh, Mikal, you know, I want to see a similar game to that Portland game from him. It don't gotta be 33 in the game winner, but
We'll take it
20,
if it comes down to that.
20, 25, aggressive. But as a team and for Tibbs, and you spoke on this, I think to start the show, I really want us to seek the advantages, seek the mismatches. Towns usually has a good game against Bam. Like they have that Kentucky thing. Utilize that. If they put in a smaller guard on McHale, put him in the post. We saw him go in the post against Curry, but it wasn't enough. You need to milk these things and then and run plays until they stop the play. Like that's what I want to see from this team.
Correct.
You get an advantage, keep going back to it until they figure out a way to stop it, and then seek out the next advantage. You know what I mean? Like that's when we
When they make their adjustment, you counter that.
Mhm.
Exactly.
That's when when we're at that elite level. You know what I mean? And I think we can get there.
I agree.
Find those niches.
Yeah, I mean, you stole what I was gonna say, Tony, and that you know, um, I this is the level, in my opinion, that the Knicks have to get to, and that's just how they process the game, like how they process what's available against bad teams, and we're going to play a slew of them. You can kind of not take advantage of mismatches and probably still win the game, but I would just like to see them, even though the competition may not be as great, still get into that habit and get into that practice of taking what's given. And sometimes when a team is bad, everything is available. you know. Um, but yeah, that's what I'd like to see. I would like to see Bridges become more, involved on the ball. With the ball in his hands. I really see him as a secondary creator on this team, and I need Josh Hart to have a bounce back game. It's not even about scoring. It's just about the focus. Just come out and just be more focused. Um, yeah, yeah, and Mitchell Robinson just keep working his way back into shape. Keep working his way back into shape. All right. Anything else before we get out of here with like 5 minutes to go? Any last words?
Well, you got about 10 minutes, Queen.
What you think they start
I,
late?
ESPN had a countdown on, and it
Oh, they
said
did.
30.
All right.
It said 39 minutes at
Okay.
7. So
Okay. All right.
just
Well, they
just
never start the games on time. I don't know what that is, but like it'll be a 7:30 start. The game starts at 8:15, and you're like,
I
what's
think
going on?
TNT is the one. I think TNT is the one that is spot on.
Oh,
Ooh,
is it?
I think it's
yeah,
TNT. Like
yeah. I know
Well, I don't
MSG
want
get
to be
like
on
10
national
minutes.
TV because that means I have to listen to the broadcast. I got on my league pass. If they're not on national TV, I could get the Nick
ah
broadcast, and
Right.
then I get to
Right.
listen to Breen and Clyde or Monica, whoever the good
Right.
guys, instead of Reggie Miller or whoever, Doris Burke or one of those. I mean, I'm muted anyway because I can't stand them, but I like to listen to the game too.
well, you talked about the 5 games, Queen. I will say this should be the toughest of the 5, considering the coaching, considering just the rivalry and how we typically play each other. You know what I mean? This should be the toughest one. So let's use this as a springboard or a stepping stone.
Dallas is going to want to beat Brunson though. I think
That's true, but they kind of, they I don't know if AD is even back, but I know Kyrie's gone for
He's
the
ramping
season.
up.
He's ramping up, so maybe he's back by then. Um, but yeah, as of right now, today, and that's my motto anyway. The game in
yeah,
front of you. That's the toughest
Right.
game.
Right.
always. You're right. 100.
Yeah. Yeah. Tony, Lady in the Chef, Jeff, the chat, Knicks 100, a GM on Deals NYK, Real King, Keith Turner was in the house, Paris Duggar, Real King, Ajay, appreciate you.
Jarrell was in the house.
Jarrell was in the house, of
Yes, sir.
course.
I seen you on my show too. Appreciate you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Wonder Woman who was in here, A Train as well. Um, actually, I saw some new Paula Bonner. I appreciate you for dropping by. If you're new, welcome. If not, welcome back. Yeah, I see my hand scrolling on the phone. Oh my God.
I know
Anyway.
that's dedication. Y'all don't realize she's having to use knuckles and all to get to the chat. She still made it on her phone, y'all.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think this is gonna probably be
Yes.
my setup while I'm here. I'm gonna try to see if I can use it as a display on my big screen, but we'll see. But yeah, I appreciate you guys tomorrow because the Knicks play Wednesday and Thursday. The Just Nick and It weekly show on Dope Soul Sports Talk will be tomorrow at 9 p.m. So yeah, whatever I didn't get to today, I want to talk about the big lineup. You know, Cat and Mitchell Robinson. What's the benefits of that? We'll talk about that. We'll talk more about Brunson's injury and a few other, and we'll talk about this game tonight. So until next time, family.
Peace, everybody.